Commissioner for Rift Valley. The two gentlemen will be speaking to us virtually regarding that insecurity situation in Laikipia. Engage us on our social media platforms at KTN News KE, at George Maringa _. The hashtag is News Center. We thank you for joining us. The government has slapped a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew in Laikipia Nature Conservancy in a bid to contain the growing insecurity in the area. The government has further deployed security teams to the area to weed out criminals operating in the vast conservancy. The move came on a day one more person was killed and another injured during a night attack in Mirgut village, bringing to 13 the number of people killed in the past 1 month. Ibrahim Karanja begins our show this morning.
The light of day Monday counted as the only hope for residents of Olmoran and Mirgut villages in Laikipia. They hurriedly left what they have called home for years following a night of terror. Men, women and children in distress, oblivious of their destination but sure of one thing, that they will not look back. This was after armed gunmen rained terror on their silent villages Sunday night, killing one person and injuring another. At the homes where the criminals raided, the feel, smell and sight of death has left permanent wounds in the memories of victims.
Nikasikia watu tayari wameingia kwa boma. Wakapiga risasi za kwanza kuelekesha nyumba kubwa. Alafu baadaye nikasikia wengine, sababu hawa watu walikuwa wengi. Nikasikia wengine wameenda ile nyumba kidogo ya kijana. Wakati walifika hapo nikasikia sasa inapigwa na mawe. Wanapiga tu na mawe.
Sasa walikuwa napiga mambuduki. Hiyo majagiri walikuwa wanaambia mzee yangu watamuua kama hiyo wameua mtu mwingine.
The attack has brought to 13 the number of lives lost in the Laikipia unrests in the past 1 month alone.
As we talk now, hundreds of cattle are grazing on those maize. And nothing is happening.
Wanasema kuna vijana waliua askari, waliwakuta askari huko kwa station yao wakawaua. Sasa hao vijana walisikiwa huko kwa soko. Sasa wanasema wapatiwe hao vijana ama watumalize sisi wote.
The attackers, according to witnesses, were on a revenge mission following the arrest of some herders. The herders had previously set ablaze several houses in Kisindogo area, making away with over 300 heads of cattle.
Sisi ni kisasi tunalipisha. Na tutaendelea miezi miwili mpaka tulipishe ile watu yetu wameuliwa.
And following the persistent attacks, the government has declared the conservancy as a disturbed zone, paving way for a major security operation. The statement by Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i also imposed with immediate effect a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew in the area as security agencies flush out all illegal occupants of the conservancy. Further, all politicians, businessmen, public officers and other persons who have illegally moved their livestock into the conflict zone have only 48 hours to remove them.
Haya ni maneno yanapangwa na serikali wanajua wenyewe. Mpaka sasa kwa nini bado hawajakabiliana na wenye hii maneno? Ndio sisi inatusumbua. Kama serikali imekuwa ni kukula na kulala na wakora, na wananchi wanaendelea kukufa kila siku na mali ya maelfu ya pesa kuharibiwa.
But even as the government issues directives, it is a commitment to ultimately end the menace that locals are looking forward to.
Thank you, Ibrahim, for that story. And of course, it shapes the conversation this morning. And I am now joined by George Natembea, the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner. He's joining us live by way of phone. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you, sir.
It now paint for us a picture of the situation in Laikipia, specifically Olmoran, as we speak at the moment.
Until about three weeks ago, the entire Laikipia county has been very, very peaceful. But of course, when we began the operation in Baringo, in Capedo, when the heat became too much for these bandits, they moved into the Laikipia Nature Conservancy to hide there. And from there, they've been carrying out attacks on neighboring communities, which has now extended to Olmoran division in Laikipia West. The problem has been compounded by the fact that we We had more herders coming in from Isiolo and Wamba in Samburu County, and all of them were armed. Traditionally, the Pokot and the Samburu have not been on very good terms. But this time around, it appears as if they have joined hands just to cause mayhem and destruction to neighboring communities. The problem traditionally has been pasture and water, but the current problem we are facing has got nothing to do with pasture or water, because we have sufficient resources in all those other counties. The problem we have now is based on this nebulous concept of historical land injustices, which people are using to destroy other people's property.
Yeah, you said the problem this time is not a pasture or what it is, land, and perhaps having been an area that is full of, it's a vast grassland. Perhaps do you think that issuing titles, or either a communal title or individual titles, would perhaps be one of the ways, in as much as we'll get to the security operation? But do you think perhaps in the long term the issuance of a title or individual titles would help?
The true position is this: Laikipia Nature Conservancy is privately owned. We have other private ranches and conservancies in that place. The land in Olmorani and Ngarwa is privately owned by individual Kenya that have got title deeds. But we have people now who are coming in and claiming that land historically belonged to the ancestors, which is a very stupid thing anyway to think of, because that land is privately owned. People have got documents. But the only thing they have, which the people of Olmoran don't have, are firearms. So they're using firearms instead of title deeds. They want to chase people away so those farmlands can become grazing areas. And now the government has now decided that we cannot allow this kind of stupidity to continue because we have got a responsibility to protect private property and also lives. So the level of mayhem and violence that is being exhibited in that area is simply meant to intimidate people to move away. It happened before 2017, and many people moved away. In fact, the entire land that Jones, Laikipia Nature Conservancy, for almost 5 years, over 5 years, has been deserted. Now they're moving towards Olmoran Center to have a bigger area on which they can graze their animals. Many of these people have been killed. Actually, they were just farm hands who are taking care of properties and not plowing them. So they want to intimidate them to move away so they can convert those parcels into grazing areas. Those pieces of land are privately owned. They're not community land. They're privately owned. So the idea of having titles now does not arise because they already have title deeds.
So what does, moving forward, the operation, of course, we did see the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew imposed last night. Perhaps has there been calm this past evening? Have you received reports of, calm or, just a cool situation in the area, especially Olmoran Center?
The security measures which are put in place from Friday are meant to ensure that the places where the people have relocated to are secure, because what has happened is that people have run away from their homes and moved away. But these bandits have been following them and actually trying to... If you fire 52 bullets in a Mabata house, you're basically... The level of violence just meant to intimidate. So the first priority for government was to secure all these people wherever they are now. That we've done. We've deployed enough officers. Now, the second phase now that we are now embarking on is to go to where these bandits are. And most of them are domiciled in the Laikipia Nature Conservancy, which is a very, very difficult place. The terrain is very difficult. The place is forested as gorgeous. And these bandits find it a more conducive place for them to hide. Actually, there's some places even security officers can't reach. But we are saying now, we cannot say as government that there are places where we can't go, and the bandits are staying there and causing mayhem. So we want to secure the people first. Then now we go to these places where these bandits are coming from to go and hit these communities and then run back. They sell animals and take some of those animals into the Laikipia Nature Conservancy. We are going to make Laikipia Nature Conservancy no goes on for anybody, for human beings, for animals. We're going to have it cleaned up. And that's the only way we're going to ensure that the neighboring communities are secured. Finally, I've had the Member of Parliament for Laikipia North talk as if the government has done nothing. She'll be the first person to appreciate the government has done because her area, as Laikipia North, was initially invaded by illegal hunters. And the government moved in and removed all of them. As we speak now, Laikipia North is very secure. And we want to do the same for Laikipia West and Nyahubu. Starting today, I'm also going to come there. I'm about to leave to go to with my security team just to coordinate the deployments and ensure that the instructions that were issued by the government yesterday are actually fully implemented. Finally, we have a problem of having senior government officers in the security sector, in the military and in the police, coming from those communities, especially from the Pokot community and the Samburu community, who have animals in the Laikipia Nature Conservancy, and it's the herders who've been causing mayhem and killing people. It becomes very tricky. For instance, if I, as the regional commissioner, I have got animals in the Laikipia Conservancy and expect a chief or a DO to remove those animals, they won't, because basically they just study limited. And that's what the government has said. All those senior officers have been given 48 hours to have the animals out of that place, or they're going to face the wrath of government regardless of their status or rank in society.
But now, Regional Commissioner, just before I let you go, I understand you need to travel, but briefly, are you hopeful that perhaps this will bring the whole matter of the perennial bandits attack to rest? Because there have also been talks of some quarters arguing that perhaps the KDF should be involved in this operation, on a permanent KDF base should be established. Do you think that this time round, whatever you are about to do, this current operation, the curfew, all these measures we saw from that National Security Council meeting yesterday, perhaps it will bring to a total end of the perennial bandits attack?
What it is what requires just the resolve of government officials. Some of us have been deployed to this area to understand their responsibilities. If we go there and we allow ourselves to be conflicted, then a small problem becomes a very big problem. Now people are talking about the military. This is a small civilian problem that our police officers and Ngaos can solve. But of course, the military has the responsibilities. If the civilian authorities become overwhelmed, they've got a responsibility to come in and support. But I want to confirm to the country that at the moment, we are not overwhelmed. It's only because that they've got some areas have been hazy, that you go there, issue instructions, but maybe there's another person who's got animals there who is intimidating these officers, these commanders, and therefore they cannot implement the directives as given. So once these animals of these senior officers are moved out, the remaining bit will be chicken feed. We'll just move in and clear. But as you've correctly put, we need to find a more lasting solution, because this talk we're having now, there's a possibility of having it again next year when a drought strikes and this herders will come back to this same place. So we want to do it this time around, not to do it in a better way, so that once we have done it, we should not have it recurring and disturbing the lives of people of Laikipia.
Regional Commissioner, again, we are seeing that perhaps Kenyans are asking even on Twitter, is this related to the Meru-Isiolo border attacks? Because this borders Laikipia, Laikipia is on the border of also Isiolo. Perhaps would this be a correlation to what we saw between the Meru and Isiolo, the Roire area, and perhaps this spilling over to that region, because that is also a vast grassland altogether? And also perhaps would you have information as to, just bring a close to this whole bandits attack in that whole upper Mount Kenya East region?
I was county commissioner for Isiolo, and the problem. But actually, while I was in Isiolo with my counterpart in Meru, we were able to reestablish the boundary between Meru and Isiolo. The problem was not even about the boundary; it was about just banditry. People pretend that they don't know where they basically are and attacking others. The problem on this other side has got nothing with the boundary. The boundary between Laikipia and Isiolo is as clear as day and night. It's not even disputed. It's not even contested. But just people want to come in. They've been unable to manage their own pasture in Samburu. They come to Laikipia. People have got some kind of program, some grazing structures, and then they think that pasture just grows like that. They come and disrupt those programs. What we are saying, and we've told the county government of Samburu, is that they should sit down as a government and try to come up with some kind of arrangement where they can maintain pasture. In Samburu, that place is perennially pasture scarce because of lack of proper grazing program. But Laikipia people are fairly organized. They have got pasture throughout the year, and these other people are coming in because of initially because of pasture. But now, as I'm saying, it has rained everywhere. There's pasture in Samburu, there's pasture in Isiolo, but these characters are still holed up in Laikipia. It's no longer about pasture, it's about land, and we're going to address this problem as such. We're going to protect private property, and anybody who flouts the law, under whatever guises, are going to be dealt with the seriousness that it deserves.
Bona Regional Commissioner, finally, your closing remarks even to the families and friends of those who have been affected, those who have died. What would be your word of assurance to them, even as you head to Olmoran, because that is what you mentioned earlier, your assurance to the community members, to the families of those who have been affected?
I want to tell them that as a regional commissioner, the government has a back. They should not dare leave their parcels of land and give in to intimidation by criminals. I want to assure them that this is just a short-term thing. Of course, they've gone through some harrowing experience. We are very sorry for that. But as government, we are going to ensure that normalcy returns to that area as soon as possible so that children can start going to school and economic activities resume. We can't fight poverty with this kind of preventing environment. And I want to ask Kenyans for the understanding once we start this work. Let us not politicize it, because the more we politicize it, the more the impunity becomes the way of life in that area, where people think that they can take on citizens and kill them, and also kill security officers, because we have also lost a good number of security officers in that area. So I want to assure them that we are going to restore law and order in Laikipia, which is a very, very critical county in the economic activities of this republic.
Thank you so much, George Natembeya, Regional Commissioner for the Rift Valley, for your time this morning. Great. That has been George Natembeya, the Regional Commissioner for Rift Valley, giving the assurance, even as he's headed to Olmoran, that all will be well. Staying with that conversation, I'm now joined by Governor Nderitu Muriithi. He is the Governor of Laikipia County. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for making time. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great. We have just spoken to Regional Commissioner George Natembeya. Perhaps you may have heard what he had to say. From what you gather, also kindly just paint a picture for us how it is on the ground, especially in Olmoran. I gather that you were there yesterday. What did you witness?
Well, yes, I was there yesterday, heading back there. Now, I think the 4 or 5 things to say quickly. Thing number one is that although I agree with George that government will do her job, the fact of the matter is that we've had difficulties just now. And, you know, as he himself has pointed out to you, we've lost security officers and so on. So the operation that has been ongoing, to me, has been low level and not achieving the results that are desired. We expect with the escalation, if you will, from yesterday, that we have a much more robust security operation, because it is inconceivable that, you know, bandits in groups of 10 or 15 or 7 people can overrun, say, a police post or a GSU camp. So we expect to see more robust action on the part of the security forces. On the other questions related to pasture and our relationship with the other 3 counties, the Ministry of Interior is sitting on a wide-ranging program designed by us, including Mr. Natembeya and the other senior officers, as well as county governments, that seeks to bring this matter under long-term sustainable management. And again, we urge Dr. Matiang'i to conclude this and so that we can begin. And this is really about soft security. You know, in a place like Tiati, near there where some of the bandits are coming from, 75% of the kids have never been to school. So that the economic, you know, alternatives for them are a bit constrained. Now, we have presented a comprehensive program that was designed by both officers of Interior and the county governments, involving the 4 counties, Laikipia, Baringo, Samburu, Isiolo, in order to bring sense in the long term to this question. And we urge Dr. Matiang'i and the other senior folks to make the decisions in a timely fashion.
Indeed, Governor, this has, you know, you've been the governor for this area, and there have been several bandit attacks. We did see even the government disarming those police reservists. Perhaps this time, the regional commissioner says that it is an issue of land, not pasture or water. Perhaps do you think that then the issue of the land title, because he has mentioned that those who are invading this land are people who want to, the ranches are privately owned, but these people want to perhaps, own these because they allude to the fact that they have been there, their ancestors have been there. Where do you then, separate the wheat from the chaff, saying that, this is your land, stay where you are, do not encroach on other private property?
Well, there are two separate points there. On the issue of the police reserve, it is my view that strategically, Dr. Matiang'i and the other senior people, the choice they made to withdraw the firearms that had been issued to the KPR was actually a poor decision because the bandits did not surrender their weapons. So the people, the long-suffering people of Olmoran are without a national police reserve, yet the bandits right next to them have sophisticated weapons. So it is my view that Dr. Matiang'i and the rest of the senior people who made this decision need to reverse it.
Yeah. Right. Governor, I don't know whether you can still hear us. Go on, Governor.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the choice to withdraw the KPR weapons was wrong. It should be reversed. On the issue of land, it is true that the Pokot side appear to be making a push for the land, about 25,000 acres, that is Laikipia West Farmers Ranch. It is quite clear that they are trying to do that, claiming that those who have come, for example, who are farming there or who have access to that pasture, that they are not necessarily locals from Olmoran. So yes, there is an issue of land. And what, of course, we as government must do is to ensure the sort of sanctity of life and private property. So we must move very high, very strongly to assert authority in that area.
Right. Governor, there has also been the issue of, to sort of ensure that there is lasting security. Many have argued that perhaps the KDF needs to establish a permanent base. What do you make of that suggestion? Because they have come there in the past, but it's only been temporary. But there are those quarters calling for an establishment of a permanent KDF base.
Firstly, I think honestly that the National Security Council needs to review why is it that even with upwards of hundreds of security personnel in that neighborhood, they have not been able to reestablish, proper control. How is it that small bands or small groups of bandits, and many of them are teenagers, frankly, they are young fellows in the teenagers and young adults. How is it that they can go and attack a GSU camp and be able to critically injure officers? So there is something more in my view. NSAC and the National Security Committee Council needs to look at an overall review of effectiveness. Should KDF be there? I think KDF should be there because the purpose of the state is to protect life. That is the #1 responsibility of the state. And a state that cannot protect her citizens is a failed state. So everybody possible should be deployed in that area and ensure that order is restored and bandits are brought to book.
The security operation, Governor, started yesterday. We did see the imposition of the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew, among other, raft of measures, the area being declared a disturbed zone. Laikipia Nature Conservancy has been declared a disturbed area. A security operation, commences immediately. That is last night. And all leaders, including politicians, businessmen, public officers, and others who have illegally moved their livestock into the conflict zone have been asked to remove the same from there within the next 48 hours. These 3 measures, from where you sit and perhaps speaking to your people, what you're gathering, do you think it will be a solution? It will be a short-term and perhaps even a long-term solution to this latest bandits attack?
Look, I hope it is not a public relations stunt. Dr. Matianing was here more than a month ago and ordered these grazers to remove their livestock within 7 days. What happened? That was more than a month ago. Natembea himself has been in Olmoran more than twice, ordering the same thing.
Yep, go on, Governor.
Inside the Nita Conservancy. So my sense is that let it not be a public relations thing. Let us see a proper operation that is yielding results.
There also the issue of, this time we understand it's the land. There has been the issue of pasture and water that has affected the area in the past. It is not the first time. This time we understand that 40 cows were stolen after a bandit shot 2 men at Olmoran Trading Center on Friday last week. This whole issue of, because that's pretty much a place where the community keeps livestock, different kind of livestock. Do you think that establishing a different way of ensuring this is a long-lasting way of just keeping these livestock? Because we've seen drought strikes in several seasons. Moving forward, is there another way of mitigating between the county government and the national government to ensure that this community continues with their way of life without interfering with each other?
Look, first of all, in terms of relieving human suffering, my own government, this morning, we are beginning to assist those whose homes were burned down to rebuild them. And we'll continue to do that. Secondly, if you look at just Olmoran police station itself and other security facilities, it is clear that more needs to be done to beef them up. The team there is a very lean team ordinarily at Olmoran police station. In addition, security roads, and we as a county government have moved our plant and equipment to continue to improve the security roads in the entire Olmoran and Sosian wards, so that then even the security personnel are able to do their work better. Moving forward, the livestock herders, so on the Pokot side and also on the Samburu side, have to do better with the way they are keeping livestock. And doing better cannot be by invading people's shambas and grazing on their maize. That cannot be how you manage drought. And as I said earlier in this program, we have together presented a comprehensive 7 billion shilling program to try and bring sanity to this area. And therefore, we are looking to the national government, the Ministry of Interior and the National Treasury to come to the table. We ourselves as 4 counties, we have already gone out and looked for some little money from our own budgets and also from donors. I think we've put together nearly 1 billion shillings. 600 million from the EU and 400 million from ourselves. And we expect the national government to step forward and be part of the solution. And the solution is, first of all, let's make sure all these folks are able to go to school. Secondly, let us make sure that alternative economic and livelihoods are available, because if you go to some of these centers, if you go to Tangul Bay, go to Churo, go to Roruk, go to Ronyek, these are, sort of abandoned places where there's very little business activity, therefore very few job opportunities. So those are the kinds of things that we have to do. Alongside that, the policing has to be first class. And it is unacceptable that a small band of rather teenagers and young adults can overrun a GSU camp. That cannot be an acceptable outcome. And we must get a much more robust policing in the area.
Indeed, Governor, important points you raised there, and that's where we wind up this conversation with Governor Nderi Tumurithi. He is the governor for Laikipia County. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for making time for us. Now, meanwhile, the Service Party leader Mwangi Kinjuri has asked for the return of Kenya Police reservists in the volatile Laikipia region following a spate of banditry attacks. Kinjuri, who is the former MP for Laikipia East, says that the presence of law enforcement officials in the region has not scared the bandits, adding that arming KPR would be the best strategy to apply in curbing the attacks.
Hali ile iko Laikipia wakati huu, tumekuwa refugees in our own county. Yani Kenya ya siku ya leo, kuna watu ambao wanafurushwa